I'm Sigfrid Kjeldaas. As Marlena said, I was the first coordinator for this project. The PI was always Kenneth Ruud, officially. I was a bit hesitant to come here today, since it's been 2.5 years since I actually worked with gender balance. But Marlena is very persuasive, and I'm very curious as to what has come of this. And so I thought, okay, I have been working on ideas of balance, so balance between technology use and what is natural. So I'll give it a go. So the full title of the project is, of course, Prestige, Gender Balance in Research Leadership at UiT, the Arctic University of Norway. And then there is something about prestigious research that seems to be in conflict with ideas of balance in general. And gender balance might, in this respect, be just one expression of how several of our more democratic values and principles collide with ideas of competitiveness and strive for excellence in research. Good research is in our culture often figured in terms of frontiers and frontier logic, the need for science to move upwards and forwards, and for the good researcher or research environment to be always avant-garde, presumably leading the way towards new developments that in some way or other will be useful to society. In a sense, this is what defines good research. And I've been working with metaphor theory lately, that, like Lakoff and Johnson's theories, that reveal the extent to which this line of thinking is indeed fundamental, not only to academia, but to our Western culture at large. But arguably, the idea that universities are meritocracies justifies and strengthens this forward drive and focus on prestigious research. So how disruptive, then, are people who come waving policy documents demanding gender balance in research excellence? And of course, the UiT at the time where we designed this project had just this kind of policy that stated that the UiT for the next 5-year period would work to systematically increase the number of women in project leader positions, especially in large projects. So in a way, this project, the Prestige project, just followed up what was already in the policies, but that hadn't really been followed up properly. But excellence in research is pretty hard to achieve even without this demand for gender balance. Is it possible to keep up the sprint towards excellence while simultaneously pausing to consider balance? In developing the project, we found this article by Henningsen and Lister very inspiring. Here they said that some of the problem with the work for gender balance in academia is that gender balance is talked about like separately from other strategic goals in the sector. So it makes it difficult to connect this work with other work for good academic research. And also that there are still hierarchies within the disciplines for what constitutes excellent research that we need to consider. So at the time I was exposed to these thoughts, I had been working on the UiT's second institutional career development program for women seeking professorship from 2016 to 18, a large program to improve gender balance at the highest level of staff. We had 60 participants in this program. So at UiT, we were already, as Kenneth said, raising the share of competent women in professorship, gradually becoming the best in our class in this respect, which we like to praise ourselves for now. And we were doing this through the fixing the women approach. And in the continuation, the trick was to make the university's research activities, particularly these largest, most well-funded projects, reflect now the level of competence in the UiT women researchers. And it was time to look less at the women than at the structures these women found themselves in, and maybe particularly in the local research communities and their cultures. So in saying something about the early days of the research project, I want to emphasize the collaborative and sharing and construction of knowledge across the university departments that made this project possible. It all started at the Center for Women's and Gender Research, and this center had 4 different mentor programs helping women to achieve the step to full professorships before it aided the institution's career and development project for women. So, of course, this meant that the center already had a lot of explicit as more tacit knowledge about the cultures these women researchers were part of and how these cultures influenced their possibilities for career development. At the time the call for proposals to the Balance Project was announced, I was a PhD student working part-time in the central administration at the Department of Human Resources and Organization. And the department was tasked with running the career development program for women in collaboration with the center. It was also in the process of finalizing the university's leadership training program, open to all in leadership positions. And my boss here, Elisabeth Westad, who was head of the HR department, she really had a lot of thoughts and a lot of drive on filling this course with content that would help make resourceful, caring, and inspiring university leaders. At this department, we also had the Hege Skogan here, who was secretary for the Gender Equality and Diversity Committee, and she was followed by Toril Nusta. And they worked closely with Vice Chancellor for Research, Kenneth Ruud, who headed the committee. And as coordinator for the career development program, I ran back and forth between these 2 environments. I also had the pleasure of attending the center's course in gender equality. And at the center, I had Katrin Loslöven as a teacher at the very end there. I had Lille Mittner as a colleague. Ann-Therese Lottrington was head of the center at that time. We should, of course, also have had Hege's picture. And she was friends with Malin Rönnblom, who worked at the Umeå Center for Gender Studies. And that means that as part of that course, we were able to take a wonderful study trip to Umeå. And it was during our time in Umeå that the idea of a gender equality project at UIT really took shape. I remember after classes, late afternoons, in creative discussions with Ann-Therese, Malin, and Katrin, which I fervently jotted down all the brilliant feminist theories these women were tossing about, and trying to imagine how these investigations that they suggested could take place within and be of benefit to the institutional surroundings that I had been in for the past 2 years. Back in Tromsø again, we had help from Lille Mittner, who had already worked at the Balance Project at the Music Conservatory. We engaged our colleague Dieter Walsh to do the quantitative data. And we joined efforts with Kjersti Hjortoft and the philosophy department, who had their own ideas for a project and really good ideas on how to investigate implicit biases. Prospective aims and deliverables were then discussed with the Department of Human Resources and Organization, and plans concocted for the inclusion of specific environments that we saw at UIT needed maybe a little bit of a shaking up. Kenneth Ruud agreed to head the project, and then senior staff at the center, Siri Gerhard, Lise Nordbrand, who should always also had been on here, looked through the application before it was submitted. So it was indeed a collaborative effort. It accessed the broad expertise in gender studies that existed at the university and in the university networks to address some of the issues that these many career development programs had identified to be influencing the career development of women researchers at UIT. And in this sense, the many women who had participated in this program also became important contributors to the project. And in focusing our investigations around the issue, what it really takes to become a successful research leader at UIT, and how research excellence is measured, implicit bias became a focal point of the project, and the philosophy department, a really important collaborator. And that meant that we needed to look at the institutional structures, the departmental research communities and culture in which this bias manifested itself. And in this connection, I think Malin Rönnblom contributed something important. She said, research leaders don't really have a formal responsibility for hiring policies or gender balance, but they have a great impact on who are hired and who are not, and on the advancement of the early career of researchers. So in order to really do something about biases and to promote further gender balance, we need to activate the research leaders and make them reflect on their own biases, practices, and the cultures that they are actually part of shaping. And so we did. To accomplish this, we invited the top research leaders to a group of exploratory dialogues that Malin and Jesper Funberg conducted on issues of research, power, and gender balance. And that was an important part of the consciousness building this project has sought to achieve. So this, in addition to this, we did interviews with faculty leaders, we did focus group interviews with people at different stages in their careers in different departments, and we did a lot of quantitative analysis. And through this and other activities, we wanted the knowledge that existed within the organization, we wanted to bring it out, often the kind of tacit knowledge that is in the walls, the cultures, how cultures function. We wanted to bring it out, perform scholarly analysis of this knowledge, and then to feed this analysis back into the system and to people in key positions able to do something about this. And these are the deliverables we then thought that the project could produce, and we'll see what you actually have produced. Course packages for the leadership program was an important part of this. And then the first part of the project really did a lot of, we performed a lot of mapping of the institutional structure, the policies, the official culture, also on the implicit, the symbolic cultures, and on the experiences of the individual people. But what I really wanted to do, and to finish off with saying that I find that this project really showed, in a sense, all these ideas. I hope that the mapping has shown also some of the values that are implicit in all these policies, in all the practices that are already there at the university. I think the project in itself and the way it started shows us these values that might clash with ideas of excellence in research, like diversity, equality, the need for equal treatment of people working within the same community, respect for different pathways towards high-quality research, and respect for different forms of knowledge that may be involved in developing it. And without all of this, the Prestige project never would have happened. So looking forward to see what got out of it all. Yeah. Thank you.